Salam everyone. So in this lecture, my own research, I want to talk about why would Prophet Muhammad testify against his own people. Believe it or not, it's in the Quran. And it's chapter 25, which is Surah al-Furqan, and verse 30, where God says, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّي إِنَّ قَوْمِي اتَّخِذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. So what this means is simply that the prophet is going to say, right, specifically, "O my Lord, my people took this Quran as a thing abandoned." So the word abandonment, or leaving something behind, or migrating, right? There are many sense of the word mahjur. So we're going to explore this particular word, and not just this particular word itself or the verse, but actually take a look at a little bit of context from the very beginning. So in this video, moving forward, I'm going to start with Surah al-Furqan, verse 1 till verse 30. So we understand the actual story, the backdrop of what is happening before we come to a point, or where the prophet is going to say that, "Oh my Lord, my people took this Quran as a thing abandoned." Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to give several reasons as to why would the prophet testify against his own people. What are some of these reasons? So we'll explore in depth as to what are these reasons. Okay, all right, so pretty straightforward, just a simple lesson. I've had several inquiries from my students and other individuals asking questions that relate to the Quran itself. If you don't know my work, if you don't know myself, my name is Dr. Said Raza. I love to do research in the Quran. I've been doing it for almost the last decade or so now. And the Quran is, of course, a complete book. And it's not just for Muslims, it's for the entire mankind, right? So it's for everyone. It's for people. So regardless of where you are, who you are, this book is a book of guidance. And the book claims to be a complete book without any inconsistencies in it. Okay? So therefore, the Quran is complete and it should give us all the answers. So one of the reasons, and of course if you watch this video till the end, you'll notice several reasons why Prophet Muhammad is actually going to testify against his own people in future at the Day of Judgment. Okay? So let's jump right in. So let's minimize this. The first thing I'm going to do is, before I actually start with Surah Al-Furqan, verse 1, I'm going to quickly explore the word itself called mahjur. Okay, so let me bring up my dictionary here. The word mahjur has the root word is hajara, right, or he jim re, which is a triliteral root, ha jim ra, which occurs about 31 times in the Quran in 6 derived forms. The 5 times as form 1 verb, 16 times as form 3 verb, and those of you who understand Arabic would know the different forms of verb in the Arabic language. But again, I'm not going to go into the grammar itself, but just so you understand that this root occurs once as a noun, and once as a noun again as hijr, or mahjirat, once as a passive participle. And this is something that we're actually interested in. So it only occurs once as a passive participle called mahjur. And then, of course, lastly, 7 times as the form 3 active participle, muhajir, which means to migrate, right? To leave, to go from one place to the other. And that kind of senses with the word mahjur, because you leave something and then you go. Okay, so therefore that's what the root word is. All right, so now that you understand what this is, I'm going to scroll down where this participle is, which is right here, chapter 25, verse 30, mahjur, which is forsaken thing, right? Or something that you abandoned, or something that's useless, something that you don't care about. Okay, all of these. Perfect. Let's jump right into the actual surah itself. So let's begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the Almighty, the Merciful. So I'm just going to go through the actual simple translation. So our goal is to go to verse 30, right, and really understand the concept. So I'm not going to pause. I'm just going to go slowly, logically, so you understand the context itself before we actually get to verse 30. All right, let's begin. So, verse 1 is blessed be he who sent down the division upon his servant, that he might be a warner to all mankind. He to whom belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth, and has not taken a son, nor had a partner in dominion, but created everything. He ordained it entirely. And they have taken besides him gods who create not anything, but are created, and possess neither harm nor benefit for themselves, and possess not death, nor life, nor resurrection. And those who are indifferent to warning say, this is only a lie. He invented it, and other people assisted him in it. And they have brought injustice and falsehood. And they say, the legends of former peoples he had written, and they are dictated to him morning and evening. Say thou, he sent it down who knows the secret in the heavens and the earth. He is forgiving, merciful. And they say, what messenger is this that eats food and walks in the markets? Oh, that an angel were but sent down to him to be a warner with him, or a treasure were but sent to him, or there were for him but a garden from which he ate. And the wrongdoers say, you follow only a man taken by sorcery. See thou how they present examples to thee, and go astray, and cannot find a way. Blessed be he who, if he wills, will make for thee better than that, gardens beneath which rivers flow, and will make for thee palaces. The truth is, they have rejected the hour, and for him who rejects the hour have we prepared an inferno. When it sees them from a place far away, they hear the fury and the moaning thereof, and when they are cast into a constricted place thereof, bound together, they call thereupon for destruction. Call not this day for one destruction, but call for many destructions. Say thou, is that better, or the garden of eternity, which is promised to those of prudent fear? It will be for them reward and journey's end. They have therein all that they desire, they abiding eternally. It is upon thy Lord a promise to be answered for. And the day he gathers them, and what they serve besides God, and says, was it you who led astray these my servants? Or did they stray from the way? They will say, glory be unto thee. It behooved us not to take any allies besides, but thou didst give them their father's enjoyment, until they forgot the remembrance, and became a people ruined. Then will they reject you for what you say, and you will be able neither to avert nor help. Whoso does wrong among you, we will make him taste a great punishment. Once again, basically the prophet, God is saying the prophet, you're not going to be able to help any person at that point in time, at the day of judgment. Let's continue on. Verse 20. And we sent before thee only emissaries that ate food and walked in the markets. So once again, God is saying, you're not the only person, you're not the only human being who was sent as a messenger, right? There are other emissaries or messengers that were sent for you who actually ate and walked into the streets. And believe it or not, these days there's so many theories and stories about prophet where, as far as you can go, that he's still alive and things like that. So there's just a whole bunch of things that are out there. Let's move forward. And we made some of you a means of denial for others. Will you be patient? And the Lord is seeing. And those who look not to a meeting with us say, oh, that the angels were but sent down upon us, or we but saw our Lord. They have been proud concerning themselves, and scornful with great scorn. The day they see the angels, that day will be no glad tidings for the evil, and they will say, exclusion without end. And we will proceed to what they did of deeds and make it scattered dust. The companions of the garden that day are best in habitation, fairer in resting place. And the day the sky with the clouds are rent asunder, and the angels are sent down in succession. the true dominion that day belongs to Almighty. And it is a difficult day for those who spurn guidance while claiming virtue, and the day the wrongdoer will gnaw his hands. He will say, would that I had taken away with the messenger. Woe is me. Would that I had not taken such a one for friend. He led me astray from the remembrance after it reached me. And the shaitan is a traitor to man. And finally, verse 30, and the messenger will say, O my Lord, my people took this Quran as a thing abandoned. Great. So you saw the entire kind of story unveil itself, right, from verse 1 to verse 30, where there's a dialogue going back and forth, and God is letting the prophet know and talking about the people and how they're responding to the call of the prophet, right? And the prophet is actually calling people to the Quran, okay? He's not, telling stories to the people from outside the Quran. His job as a messenger, just like any other messenger, is to deliver the message of the Quran itself, or be able to recite just the Quran alone, right? Because at that point in time, the Prophet was alive. There was no hadith. There was no nothing of this sort, right? There were nothing except what there was traditions, customs. And I want to talk about that a little later. But verse 30 is very straightforward and absolutely clear. The messenger is going to say at the day of judgment, O my Lord, my people took this Quran as a thing abandoned. Now, just to focus on this a little bit more, okay? Who are these people? These are the people that the prophet is reciting the Quran to at that point in time, in a given time frame, right? During his life, basically. And people are not listening to him. They've actually abandoned the Quran. Here's the question. Why would the prophet testify against his own people? Whereas all Muslims are told today that the prophet is going to actually help them, right? Or make shafa, right? In other words, do the, what do you call it? Uh, Intercession, right? Or help them, pass the examination at the day of judgment. Well, the Quran is the opposite. The messenger is going to testify against his people. It's pretty obvious. Okay? All right, so I'm going to explore some of the reasons. And of course, you need to have some understanding or a lot of understanding of the Quran itself as a whole, because it gives you a lot of information. It gives you a lot of information in terms of actual stories or what is happening in the life of the prophet, right? How are people treating him? People are calling him a sorcerer. People are actually rejecting the prophet. His people are actually telling the prophet to leave the town, right? And so on. So there's so many things that are happening throughout the Quran itself. But specifically, um, what I feel, in my own humble opinion, is several reasons why the prophet would testify at the day of judgment that people have abandoned the Quran. And even today, okay, even in today's times, we see that people actually don't really focus on the Quran itself as a complete book. Almost all the time, you'll notice that people are more focused and concerned about hadith and sunnah and all the other stories that are written by men. Okay, nothing has been written by the prophet himself. All right, so let's bring up my notes here. So why would the prophet Muhammad testify against his own people? Here are my 7 points that I feel are the reasons this would happen. First, people typically follow traditions more than anything, to a point where traditions actually become sacred, okay? Because if you typically go to someone and tell them, well, why are you doing this? Why are you following this tradition? So they will, typically answer, well, that's how we are taught. That's how we're raised in a certain circumstance, in a certain culture. So we follow traditions, whether it's the countries in the Asian countries or whether it's the Western countries. It doesn't matter. Each our culture, every culture has a certain set of traditions that they follow, and they just do not let go. So the same thing is true when the prophet himself is actually letting people know the word of God, reciting the Quran, and people are saying, well, we're stuck on these traditions. How can we leave these traditions? And those traditions could be, not spending money, being frugal, or, any other kind of traditions that the Quran talks about. Second reason is people like to invent things, and they do so they can gain popularity. Let's be honest, everyone wants to be popular, right? Everyone wants to be, the person who everyone comes to. So you want to gain popularity. You want to be on TV. You want to be famous. Okay, and the way the Quran reflects on these kind of people, talks about these kind of people, is that those people who sold, uh, you know, ayat at a cheap price. That's in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, and so forth. Okay. So people like to invent things. The Arabic word for invention is yaftarun, right, or in plural. So it's iftara, like inventing, and that's one of the allegations, by the way, people put on the Prophet himself, because people actually told the Prophet, "Hey, you invent this Quran. You invented this Quran, okay? Or you actually got help from someone else." So that's one of the reasons why people typically, they like to invent things just to gain popularity. And that's why we see all these kinds of people, they have no substance, right? They have no evidence, they have no backing, but just, books and books and books and hundreds of books without any basis. The third reason is people cannot let go of the way of their forefathers. Well, that's pretty typical and standard. We have to follow what my parents did, right? You have to follow what your grandparents did, because that's the way we do it in our family. It's pretty typical. So that's a difficult concept for people to let go of how their forefathers' traditions and customs and other things that they've been actually doing, and you're just not going to do it. Okay, so that's a difficult concept for people to grasp. Number four is people always prefer worldly things over the actual truth. Okay, and by worldly things, I'm referring to things like fakeness, right? Just like Shakespeare said, world's a stage and we're all actors. Okay, so people like to go for the um, what do you call it? The newest thing in town, right? Okay, or um, the most latest fashion, for example. So the worldly things attract us. There's huge buildings, there's cruises, business class travel, and vacations, and so forth. So the worldly things kind of takes precedence over the actual truth itself. So that's one of the reasons why we don't really focus on the Quran itself, or what the message of the Quran, the context of the Quran. Quran is for everyone. It's not just for Muslims. Okay, so therefore people just kind of prefer to stick to the overall facade of things and not really focus on, okay, well, this is the truth. Number five, people prefer power and authority, and that's pretty straightforward. Actually, very important, because that's something what even Iblis told God when God told him to make sajda, right, to Adam. He said, "Well, I'm not going to do it." When God said, "Why aren't you going to do it?" He said, "Well, I'm better than him. Ana khayrum minhu." Okay, that's what he said. So he said, "Well, I'm not gonna do it because I'm better, right?" So he had this element of takabbur, right, or astakbarun, right, takabbur itself, which means absolute, like I'm the powerful, I'm the authority, I'm better. So people prefer that. Okay, everyone wants to be on top. Everyone wants to be first. Everyone wants to be, uh, you know, become a millionaire or gazillionaire or whatever, right? So, and these are one of those reasons. All of these reasons, by the way, that I'm referring to are basically the reasons why we don't focus in the Quran itself. And that's why the Prophet, if you look at the entire message of the Quran itself, the, the Prophet is telling people exactly the same things as other prophets told their people, such as Prophet Nuh, Prophet Abraham, Musa, everyone. They said the same thing to their people, okay? With Shoaib and so on. So, number 6, people tend to reject everything but their own opinion. Well, what I mean by this is, everyone has their own voice. And of course, everyone wants to say, well, what I'm saying is the correct thing. Even if I don't have any evidence, even if I don't have any reasoning behind, any logic behind this. What I say is the truth. Okay, so that's typical of people. So they reject everything, but they say, well, what I'm saying is the correct thing. And the reasons that they give in support of their opinion actually have no grounds. Okay, typically. Because if you ask them, why are you saying this? Why are you making this claim? Where did you get this? What is the authority behind it? And they don't have an answer. But, that's the truth to them. Okay? So that's number 6. Number 7, and one of the last reasons that I feel, is people prefer emotions over reason and common sense. And common sense in Arabic is called aql. Afala ta'qilun. God says, you don't use aql. Okay? Several times in the Quran. So people are emotional beings, and we are emotional beings, right? And just so you know that there are 2 words in the Quran that are used for the heart. One is qalb, right, which means heart, and the other one, the word that is used for the heart is called fu'ad, which is like hot burning meat. Okay, so that's also used for the heart itself. And one of the examples in the Quran is when God talks about Musa's mother, when she got really emotional about putting her son into the river, right? So God uses the word fu'ad for her. Okay, so and that's typical because our decisions typically are based on emotions, or majority of the people, I guess, they make decisions on emotions rather than logic, reason, and common sense. Okay? So that's one of the reasons why, in my humble opinion, people kind of leave the Quran, because they say the Quran doesn't have a whole lot of things to say, to tell us. Quran doesn't explain how to, make salat, or how to fast, or how to do hajj, and all of these details the Quran doesn't have. Well, the Prophet didn't give us those details either, okay? Because during his time, he's actually testifying against his people, instead of handing down handing them a booklet or detailed worksheets or something else, right? Anything written to how to pray, how to do this, how to make azan. None of this is in the Quran itself. These are just traditions that we feel as people, as men, who came up with all of these traditions like Eid Miladun Nabi and so forth and so on. And these are again borrowed. If you look at my other lecture on the Talmudic Jews versus people of Hadith, so the Jewish people, they follow Talmud, which is their Hadith, and Muslims follow Hadith, which is sayings of the Prophet. So, so these are again some of the reasons that I feel are common among people today. Just wanted to cover a simple question: why would the Prophet Muhammad testify against his own people? Well, the Quran is pretty clear. It talks about people rejecting the Prophet, people telling the Prophet that you're a sorcerer, you're get out of town because you're inventing all of this, and so on. Even though the Prophet is just a human being, just like them, and the Prophet is among the same people. So he's not, he didn't come from outside the city, right? He actually was born and bred in the same town where his people are. So everyone knew him, okay? And that's again, everything is in the Quran. All right, so that's why the Prophet is going to say, "Oh my Lord, my people took the Quran as a thing abandoned," because we've not really focused. We don't focus on the Quran. We don't actually do a lot of tadabbur, okay, the Quran, because we think that the Quran is, well, a lot of people think they know that the Quran is incomplete. Well, the Quran can only be completed by the hadith itself. Okay, whereas the Quran itself is clear. Nothing can be injected in the Quran, nor anything can be taken out from the Quran itself. Okay, but in any case, that's a separate topic. I'll cover that in a separate video lecture. For right now, I just wanted to quickly cover chapter 25, Surah al-Furqan, verse 30. I hope this helps. Make sure you write some comments. If you have any questions, post in the discussion area. Make sure you also subscribe, share this video with friends. I'd like to get your feedback on this. And with this, Assalamu alaikum.